Welcome back to my channel. This is Tiffany Travels, where we help women and families travel, build wealth, and live richer. So today we have a special guest who moved to Mexico, and she's going to tell you how she enjoyed it. Hi.
Hi, Tiffany.
How's it going?
It's going well. I'm doing good. How are you?
I am great. So you could start by introducing yourself and telling people about your channel and what they can find there.
Okay. So my name is Tulu, and my channel is Tulu Travels, and I essentially just document my experience as I travel the world. My goal is to see every city, every country in the world. So slowly but surely, we're getting there, and I just document my experiences on my channel.
So how many countries have you been to so far?
So I've been to about 12.
Nice. And
Yeah.
so they've been mostly in Asia and mostly in the North America?
Actually Europe, quite a bit in
Oh,
Europe as well. I don't have as many vlogs on my channel from my time in Europe because I didn't really start vlogging then, but yeah, Europe as well, Asia, now, I'm now Mexico and a little bit of South America, but we need to keep expanding.
okay. So you've been all over Europe. Do you wish you started your channel earlier so that you could have those European cities documented?
Definitely. I think
Yes.
it would have been rough because I was a lot younger, but I feel like having those to look back on would have been amazing.
Okay, so you've been all over Europe, Asia. What made you choose Mexico City to go to for a year?
Yeah, so I was living in San Jose in Silicon Valley, and I just knew I needed a change. If you've ever been to Silicon Valley, you know that it's for an older audience. I would say it's a lot calmer, but people are hustling. You know, they're working, they're grinding at work, and I felt like that is where I could see myself maybe in 20 years. But right
Mhm.
now, I'm 26, 27, and I was like, I need to be somewhere where my energy is activated, where I feel like I can, hustle in a different kind of way and really live and experience life in a way that I wasn't getting in San Jose. And so I was just thinking about what city would be able to give that to me. And I actually was considering Washington, D.C. first because I had a lot of friends and they were like, I think you would like Washington, D.C. It's like New York, but a little less hectic. But when I
Yeah.
went to visit, it wasn't for me. Like coming from California, I'm a California girl, and Washington, D.C., I couldn't do it. So I had to cancel that off the list. But then at the same exact time, my big sister was also looking for a change. And she was like, Tula, you have to come check out Mexico City with me. I think it's exactly your vibe. I think you would love it. And so I visited with her for 4 days and I was like, yes, thank you. This is exactly what I need.
Okay, so other than Washington, D.C., were there other cities that you considered?
Yes, Atlanta was also on my list. I
Okay.
have one of my best friends lives there, and I really love Atlanta. It's green, the people are really nice.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't Mexico City, it probably would have been Atlanta.
Okay. Okay. It's interesting that they were US cities and then you went to like an international city.
Yeah, and I think because I grew up in Los Angeles, and so I grew up around Mexican culture, and so I think when thinking about making the move to Mexico City, it was my sister and I knew it wasn't going to be too much of a culture shock, and so it was a little bit more comfortable, and we knew some Spanish, so it didn't feel as big of a jump.
Okay. So it was you and your sister that moved and then you guys got an apartment together. The two of you lived there for the year.
Yes.
Okay. And then what was the visa process like?
Yeah, so I think that's another reason why we were drawn to Mexico City because the visa process in Mexico is a little bit more accessible than other countries because they do grant tourists a 6-month visa. And
Uh-huh.
so we basically use that for our entire year because
Mhm.
every time we do leave Mexico and re-enter, the 6 months do restart. So we stayed on that the whole time because we did travel quite a bit in and out, and so it would just keep restarting, and we didn't have any issues with that.
Yeah, I've heard of that. People go and then you just leave and come back. And can you do that like an infinite amount of times? You could just leave and
Yeah,
come back.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then it's super easy.
Yeah. Very easy, very accessible.
So I watched one of your videos and you were saying how Mexico City was way more expensive than you thought it was going to be. And can you tell us about like what's the cost of living? How much was your rent? How much were your utilities? How much did you budget for the year? And then what you kind of did to, I guess, make a living.
Yeah, so I think initially when we had went to Mexico City, I think what we were hearing about cost of living was that we can find a place, an apartment where we each paid maybe 750 a month. And I think because there's so many foreigners moving into Mexico City, the prices were increasing like very rapidly. And so within the year that we were there, I think there was even more increase in rent and cost of living. But we ended up paying about 2,200 for our apartment. Granted, it was a 3-bed, 2-bath, but it didn't have, the amenities that you would want, like a washer dryer or anything really fancy. But that was definitely the higher end of our budget, and I had to compromise on some things with my sister because I was really pushing for natural lighting, and so there was some things that I had to give on, and the price was one of them. But I think for me, my cost of living per month with utilities, um, I would say is about 1,700 USD with rent, utilities, food, and then other expenses like dance classes and stuff like that.
So was that on the higher end of the spectrum, or were you guys were you living large with $1,700, or was that like in the medium range?
I think it was. I mean, when I first got there, I definitely wanted to eat at the restaurants. Mexico City is such a food hub, and so I really wanted to eat all the food. But after a while, I was like, I can't afford that, so I needed to bring it back a little bit. But I think that was pretty. I think that's pretty normal. Like that's a standard living, not living lavish or anything.
Okay. And
Hmm.
JB says hi and
Hi,
good day.
Julie.
So how was the healthcare system over there? And did you use it? Did you get like travel insurance? Does travel insurance work for a year? Like, how did that work?
So I don't know. I think a lot of people would call me irresponsible because I did not get insurance. I was just trusting that the Lord would protect me over this year, and He did. And I didn't really have to use the healthcare system at all, but I did get my wisdom teeth extracted because I couldn't even think about spending the kind of money that they would charge me here in the US. So I did end up getting my wisdom teeth out, and um, the way it works is you basically just walk into the clinic, you walk into um, the clinic and tell them what you need, and they do it and you pay. That's really it. They don't ask about insurance or anything. And the same thing happened when I wanted to go get my knee checked out because I had injured my knees, and I just made an appointment, a consultation, and he saw me, I paid, and that was it.
So how much did it cost you to get your wisdom tooth extracted?
So I got all 4 of them taken out actually, and um, I think it came out to about 600 USD.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was able to get it for 600 USD, which I think was was pretty reasonable, and probably would have been 4 times that in the States. Yeah,
Yeah, even if you have insurance.
correct.
Yeah, so I want to put your channel here. It's just Tulu.travels
Yes.
for people who are watching. Okay, and then let's talk about, did you feel safe walking around at night?
I did feel very safe in Mexico City. I think being the largest city in North America, it means that there are so many people in that city, and at times it can feel very chaotic. It can feel like a little overstimulating, but I think it does help make you feel safe because there's always people outside walking the streets. And so my first week there, I had to do some walking, and I think it was like as late as 10:30, 11 p.m. And I felt very comfortable because there was cars driving, there was people walking, and I didn't feel unsafe at all.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty late.
Yeah.
And what about like walking around with your phone? Because I've seen videos in London, which people would think is a safe city, where people are like on their phone and a motorcycle drives by and like grabs the phone.
Yeah.
So is
Honestly,
it safe in that regard?
yeah, I think when I was first getting ready to move and my first week there, I was hearing, watch out for your phone, watch out for your belongings. And I think you should always do that, no matter which city you are in. But not once in my entire year there you know, um, did I ever see anything or witness any theft or feel like my things were gonna get taken. I never did. But I do have a friend who did have her phone stolen, but she is Mexican. She has been living in Mexico City for a while, so I think it really can happen to anybody, and you just have to
Uh-huh.
be mindful and watchful.
Okay. And did you move there with a job or how did that work?
So I actually quit my job before moving to Mexico City, and thankfully I did have some savings as I moved. And when I when I was living there, I was just walking in faith. I was like, I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm trusting God that He is going to provide. And it's crazy the way that He really showed up because I was able to have experiences working in entertainment. I was able to get some commercial gigs, and the way it just provided and allowed me to pay for my bills, that I can't even explain it. So I did not have a job, but I was able to get a few gigs while living there.
Okay. And was that something you were doing before? I mean, JB says you gotta be mindful and watchful. Like
Mhm.
I guess anywhere, things can happen anywhere, not just Mexico City. But
Yeah,
were you in entertainment before? Is that something that like you did in California?
not at all. Not at all. It's always been a dream of mine, but I was never able to get into it. I think it's very competitive here, like, being near LA and in California. And so I never was, but yeah, I just got into it in Mexico City.
So how has your quality of life improved like as a result of living in Mexico City?
I think my move to Mexico City did everything that I was hoping it would in regards to energizing me and helping me to feel like I'm not, like in my mid 40s and already settled in life. Like it's okay for me to not know what I'm doing, not know exactly where I'm going, and just try to take it all in. And so I think Mexico City really improved my quality of life by allowing me to walk everywhere. Like the walkability of the city was incredible. I was able to walk anywhere I needed to, and you feel safe the whole time. Also, being able to say join a dance class randomly, or join a pottery class, or just get into different hobbies. And for example, the commercials that I was able to do, just having the access to these kind of things is what I was not able to do in California. And so I think it really allowed me to be a healthier version of myself and to really tap into some of my more like personal passions and interests.
So just like a slower life, even though it's a busy city, it sounds like it allows you to have a slower life and focus more on hobbies.
I would say that, yeah, like a life less centered around work and more
Mhm.
centered around, what I'm actually passionate about, and giving me the space to think about that.
Yeah, because America is such a work-centered culture, And it's like whenever you leave the US, no matter where you go, if you go, I guess except for Asia, but if you go to Europe, you go to like South America, you can feel that people are just more on life centered, family centered, as opposed to work centered. You see so many people like around 5, 6 o'clock. I was in Panama, and you see so many people come outside just to sit out and just walk. They have like a trail, and people just walk around, or Merida, where they come out on Sundays, and people just sit down and walk and relax and gather. And people gather more.
Right.
These other
Like,
countries.
yeah, and just the thought of meeting with a friend on a random Monday night, like that's not planned, very spontaneous. I would not even think about that in Silicon Valley, but the way it just it made me feel like I was back in college or high school, and just how you can meet with your friends and commune with people. It was amazing.
Yeah, I can see that. So, did you experience any racism in Mexico City?
I wouldn't say that I did. I think the people are very nice, very welcoming. I think because there are so many foreigners moving into Mexico City, there is a little bit of I'm not going to go so far as to say hostility, but I think that there is um, you know a perspective that it's like, you guys are coming in, you foreigners are coming in, the prices are going up for us. And so I think it's really mindful for anybody that's thinking about moving into Mexico City, to keep that in mind. Like it is changing things for the locals. And so there was a few times when I felt like, did I just experience like racism? But I don't know. I don't know that I can say for sure. It was like a car passing by and then intentionally splashing into a puddle and wetting me and my friend. But that was in the very early days, and since then, didn't really experience anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So more of a nationalist kind of perspective versus
Yeah.
race, which can feel like a relief, like a relief to not be seen in that way. Like I had somebody call me a gringo, and they were like, I wish these gringos, I made a video that said like, is Mexico City cheaper than New York? And he was like, I wish these gringos would stop talking about Mexico City's cheaper. And I was like, me, I'm a gringo? I didn't know. I was like, okay.
Yeah, but I don't think, yeah. I don't think that's an insult. Like, I think that's what they would call us. Like, but that's just being foreigners in Mexico City.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody. It's like a generalization, any foreigner. As we're here, we classify every single one. So that it's nice to just be in the same group as everybody else.
Yeah, it is.
So here, what's the culture like? And what are the people like over there?
Yes, the culture, like I said, the people are very nice. I think one thing I did notice is they call it a machismo culture, where it's basically like there's a male dominance that you feel in the city. And I really did feel that. It was very interesting. I don't know how many times I was walking around and I was like, there are so many men. I don't know. It just felt like there were so many men in the city. And I just felt like the men really did want to assert their dominance, I think. And I talked about it in one of my videos, but I think for me, being a Black woman in Mexico City, it was very interesting because, there are Black people in Mexico City, but you're not going to see them really walking around. Like, you kind of have to know where they're at and the groups that they're in. And so as I was walking around, I still felt like there was a lot of attention on me. And I think the reason that it was kind of unsettling for me so much is because it was mostly coming from the men, and they really kind of went out of their way to make it known that they were giving that attention. So it was not uncommon for me to be walking and just, a group of men just stop talking and they will literally just stare you down. And it's just like, I don't want this. I don't want this at all. So it was very interesting. And talking to women, any woman, whether they're foreigners or whether they're Mexican, they're like, yeah, that's the culture, and it's very uncomfortable. I understand why you're uncomfortable, and unfortunately, that's just how it is. So it was comforting to know that, it's not just me. Like, this is something that we as women were experiencing there, but it can be uncomfortable at times.
So because we do hear like Latin American culture is more masculine, more male dominated. But when you went out to like a bar or like a social scene, did you see a diverse crowd, or did you see it was like more men hanging out?
Um, to be honest, I don't know that I actually went to a single bar while in Mexico City. I'm not really a bar person or a club person, but say I went to a language exchange or a salsa class, there is a good mix of men and women. Um, I think the ratio would probably be like 60% men, 40% women, but in those scenes, it was pretty equal.
Okay. So hi mom, wants to know if you're still living in Mexico City.
So I'm actually not. I moved out last month after 1 year, and I am now thinking about where I will be going next.
So was the language barrier difficult for you? You said you spoke some Spanish. So did you take lessons while you were there, or was the Spanish you knew enough?
So I took 4 years of Spanish in high school, and you think that that prepares you, but it doesn't, like if you're not practicing it. And so when we first moved, me and my sister, we got a Spanish tutor, and we had one for about 2 months, but then I realized that that's eating away at the limited funds that I have, so I had to stop that. And after that, by that time, I had joined a dance group, and they did all the instructions in Spanish. And I had made some Mexican friends, and so I was able to start talking with them in Spanish. And so from there, it was kind of just like talking with people and trying to improve and develop my Spanish from through that.
Did you have oh wait, before I ask that, my mom she wants to know, why did you move? I'm not sure if she meant to Mexico or move back, so you could just answer both.
Okay, yeah. So I moved to Mexico City just for a change of scenery from Silicon Valley. And when I went to visit for 4 days, it had the energy, it had the walkability, the greenery that I was looking for. So I was like, this is a place that I definitely can see myself. And the reason for my move away is unfortunately because of some of those cultural differences that I'm not too comfortable with, namely like the staring on a daily basis. I just don't want to have to think about that every single day, and want to be somewhere where I just feel like I can freely move around and not have to worry about that.
Okay. So the staring from the men got to be too much.
Yeah, just a little bit. But aside from that, like I really do love the city. And so when I talk to people, they're like, that's a really, that's not a smart reason to move away. But I think unless you're in that situation and you feel, you know, unless you feel it, you won't understand, because it does affect your quality of life. It does affect how you feel. Like if you want to go outside and you're changing the way you dress now and you're trying not to attract too much attention, and it can be too much.
Okay. So my mom wants to know, what are some of the cities you're thinking of moving to now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I just feel like I am not really interested in moving back to the States, which is it's a big thing to say, but I don't know. Aside from like Atlanta, maybe New York, maybe Seattle, I don't really know of a city that would really give me what I'm looking for right now. And so one city that's on the top of my list is Tokyo. I've just been hearing too many incredible things about it, and so I really want to check it out. But I've also heard about Rio de Janeiro. Nairobi was recently put on my radar recently, and so these are nothing is set in stone, but I'm just starting to think about them and look into it.
Have you been to Japan?
No, I
Or
haven't.
okay, because they stare a lot too over there.
Oh,
But I
okay.
think it's in a different way. It's not in like a sexualized way. It's more in a like just
Curiosity.
kind of way. Yeah,
Okay.
they're like with their phones too. What is this?
Interesting. Okay. I haven't I tried to ask some friends like what they experienced there, and they were like, no, it's pretty diverse. I didn't really experience too much staring. So I guess I'll have to go and see if I can really see myself there.
Yeah, for a year, you do another year again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for where I can, kind of settle and like have a little bit of a foundation now. So ideally, like the place I would be a home base wherever next. And I think that would be hard with the visa process because many countries give like a 3 month or 1 month. So it would have to take a little bit more work in regards to getting residency. But I'm just taking it day by day, I guess, right now, and still exploring the options.
Was it difficult to maintain your relationships when you moved to Mexico City, like your family? Well, you had your sister there, but the rest of your family and friends, because that is some of the hesitation that people have when they think about moving abroad is that their network that they've built in their local city, they're like, okay, well, I have to start over, or like, do you lose those people? So, how did you handle that?
Yeah, I think I have always I feel like I'm a nomad at heart. Like I've always just been interested in traveling and being all over the place. And so I'm used to having my friends be in different cities and my families be in different cities. And so keeping up with them and checking in and scheduling those calls, it was not new to me, and I'm really grateful for that. So it's just a matter of like being intentional to have a weekly call, a weekly check-in. And thankfully, I had friends that were able to come visit as well. And so it felt like nothing changed in my relationships. And if not, they continue to grow stronger.
Okay, so that's you're used to it. You have friends in DC and Atlanta, so
Yeah,
it's the same thing because you were far from them anyway.
right.
So you wake up and it's Tuesday morning in Mexico City. Like, what did your day look like?
So I loved starting my days off with a long walk at Chapultepec, which is a huge, it's a bosque. They call it, it's like a forest, but it's just a massive park. And it was about a 40-minute walk for me. So I would do like the 40-minute walk there, 40
Uh-huh.
minutes in the park, and then 40 minutes back. So I really loved walking that city because it's just beautiful,
It
very
is.
calm. And then I would try to check out like a new cafe and kind of sit there, do some work for a little bit. And I really loved taking dance classes in Mexico City too. So maybe like a hip hop class, Afro class, maybe salsa. And then me and my sister like to check out new restaurants for dinner as well. Or we would just cook something in and chill. Like it was mostly just like walking and eating good food. That was the theme of my year.
Yeah, I mean that sounds amazing. Walking, eating, cafes. I love
Yeah,
cafes. Just sitting down, people watching, and then the parks in Mexico have so much greenery. I mean, all parks have greenery, but they put a lot of
yeah,
greenery in their parks. So you're like, oh, this is really pretty.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And so, how is living in Mexico different from living in the US?
I think I think the biggest thing for me was that the focus wasn't only on work, like you're not living to work, but you really are working to live and just having that balance. Um, and still being able to prioritize personal hobbies, relationships with the people that you're meeting, um, and not have to sacrifice all of that for work. But I also think not feeling the burden, like the financial burden of if I do want to go get a procedure or get my teeth checked out or my knees checked out, it's going to take me 5 years to pay back my bill. Like, I think that was amazing. And I'm really grateful that I was able to get some like dental procedures done. And, you know, yeah, I think those are the biggest things. But I will say whenever I come back to the States, whenever I land back at San Francisco or LA, I am blown away by the diversity that I see in these airports. And I think I definitely take it for granted how many different cultures there are in this country and in this state specifically. And so I really would love to be in a place that is this melting pot that has this mixture of cultures as well, because it goes a long way. It really does, in ways that you probably wouldn't even think of initially.
Did you date while you were in Mexico City? How was that process? No dating.
No, I'm not in that season right now. Not at
Right.
all.
And then, what have you done in Mexico which you could not do living in the US?
Yeah, I think the biggest things were joining a dance team, which has been on my um, honestly, the way that I was able to cross some things off of my life bucket list this past year, I am so grateful to God because He's so good. But joining the dance team was an amazing experience. It was an Afro-inspired dance team, and it was so good. And I felt like I was young again. I'm still young, but I just felt like anyway. But also being a part of those commercials as well and getting to have that experience in the entertainment industry. Like I said, like I have tried here in California, but it never worked out. And I
Right.
was able to be in two, three commercials, but one of them got canceled. So two commercials, which was a really cool experience.
Nice. Okay, so what is a must-try dish in Mexico?
Oh, so I fell in love with chilaquiles when I was there, which is very simple. It's like tortilla chips with sauce. But once you start adding things like chicharron, like from the north, that still has some fat on there, that's pretty good. And also, they have something called sopes, which is like a little corn tortilla, and they put beans on top and different toppings, and that's pretty good as well. Um, yeah, I would say those two for now. And also pozole, if you haven't already, which is a soup that it's just so hearty. It feels like a warm hug. So you try pozole as well.
So, did you travel as much when you were living in Mexico as you did when you were living in the US?
It's actually really crazy because this past year of being unemployed and living in Mexico City, I traveled more this year than I have like any other year in my life. And not just in Mexico, but outside of Mexico too. Got to go to Ethiopia and Colombia and Hawaii, and it was just amazing. But also was able to do travel within Mexico, which I really wanted to do, like Oaxaca and San Miguel de Allende and Playa del Carmen. So it was amazing.
Okay, so how did you like Ethiopia? Because I've heard great things about Addis Ababa.
Yeah, I so my best friend is Ethiopian,
Uh,
and my two best friends and I have been wanting to go for years since we met like 10 years ago. And so the fact that we were able to go this year was was like a full circle moment on our friendship and kind of like an anniversary for our 10 years. So it was a really special experience. We were able to experience Easter there, which is a huge celebration in the Ethiopian Orthodox religion and culture. And we stayed with my best friend's family, and they really took us in as their own. And we ate amazing food. We got to really experience the culture. And I would really highly recommend it to anybody.
okay. And the food, had you had Ethiopian food before?
Oh, yes. Yes, many times. At this point, I could probably make it as well because my best
Oh,
friend does a good
wow.
job of teaching us.
And then what part of Colombia did you go to?
So we were in Medellin and then also a couple days in Guatapé.
Okay. And what did you think about Medellin versus Mexico City?
I think it was, I really do love Medellin. I think it was a little bit calmer because, it's not as crazy and chaotic of a city. And I definitely saw more diversity, which was nice in regards to like seeing Black people on the streets. And the biggest thing that stood out to me is that because they don't know if I'm actually Colombian or not, like they talk to me in Spanish and allow me to work through it
Uh
if
huh.
if I want to practice as well. Whereas already in some places in Mexico City, it's English, which I feel really bad about, and I really would not want that to be the case because I think people should try to speak Spanish when they're in Mexico City, but that happened.
Okay, so we have a comment here from Izzy that says, if going to Mexico, just don't leave the resort or the safe area. You may get extorted as soon as you try to travel anywhere. So I've been to Mexico City and I didn't stay in a resort, I stayed in a hotel. So we left and we walked around. I took Ubers, I went to restaurants, and I've been to Merida and I stayed in an Airbnb. So I had to leave to get food, walk around, go to like Centro in Merida, go to different restaurants. So I've done Mexico resorts and I've done Mexico cities that are not like as resort centered like Merida, and
Mhm.
I felt totally safe.
Yeah.
So I mean, you said you felt safe as well.
Yeah, honestly, I think I think it's definitely propaganda in wanting to paint Mexico in a certain way, but I truly felt safer in Mexico City than I do, like still currently do in cities here in California. And so I would say, definitely don't let what the media says don't let what the media says prevent you from going out and exploring and connecting with the locals because it is safe. You have to be mindful still of the areas that you wander into, but more often than not, like you'll be okay.
Yeah. So, what would you say to women who are considering moving to Mexico? As a result of the current political climate in the U.S., there's been an uptick in people who are saying or thinking about moving to Mexico. So, what would you say to those women?
I would say I think Mexico is a really beautiful country, especially Mexico City. That's kind of where my knowledge extends to, even though I have been to other cities. But I would say Mexico City would be a really beautiful place for you. I think you can, like anything you can think of wanting to do in that city, you can. I would say do some research and because it's constantly changing, like the cost of living and the social climate, I guess. So definitely do some research, but I think it would be a improvement to the standard of living that they might have in the US.
Agreed. Yeah. Just even the culture, just the focus on gathering and living. There's
Mhm.
people who talk about just a reduction in anxiety and just a increase in satisfaction.
Yeah,
And I mean, you can always move back. You can always come back to the US if it doesn't work out.
right. And I will say, with any country that you're going to move to that is not English speaking, like you do want to try to learn the language because it will close some barriers and allow you to connect with more people. Um, so I'm really grateful that I was able to make some Spanish speaking friends, and that completely changed the experience that I had in Mexico City versus what I know the experience to be of other foreigners that came and kind of stayed in the foreigner groups.
Okay. And then, how was your experience in Thailand and Korea?
I really love Thailand. I think they are so friendly over there, like probably the friendliest people that I've ever encountered so far. I will say that they did stay over there too, and they came up and actually asked for pictures and everything. But it didn't feel as uncomfortable as it did for me in Mexico City, because I think there was more of the curiosity and the appreciation, I guess. So I love Thailand. I think Bangkok is a very busy city, very bustling, and I just think it's too hot for me. I think that's why I can't really see myself there long term. But Korea, I actually loved a lot. I grew up in Koreatown in Los Angeles, and so I had a lot of Korean friends growing up. And I would always say, I'm going to be in Korea one day. And so to be able to go there was a full circle moment for me and eat Korean food, connect with the locals. I had the time of my life, truly. And so that is also a place that I could see myself. Seoul is also a place I can see myself potentially in the future.
So was the food in Thailand as spicy as like because I go to the Thai restaurants here and then they say like this is nothing. I've heard people say it's nothing compared to when you go to Thailand and have like the Thai food there.
Honestly, I'm not like I can do spicy, but I tend to kind of stay at that level 3, that mild level. So I don't even ask for that. But what I did notice, and please don't come for me, I felt like the flavor in Thailand was a little bit more muted than in the US. And I don't know if that's because like those that are coming to the US like kind of have to like not prove themselves in the food industry here, but I just feel like I was expecting a certain level, and I actually didn't. I didn't. It didn't meet it for me, which was very surprising. Still delicious, but I feel like I tasted better Thai food in like Oakland or something, which was crazy.
Okay, I'm gonna put your travel channel here again. So anybody who's watching, they can see you, Tolu.travels. And we have another comment from Izzy, and she talks about the police force is there to deter criminals. So Merida, which I went to, is one of the safest, is actually the safest city in all of North America, Canada included. So yeah, there's going to be areas that are less safe, and there's going to be areas that are safer, and you just have to do your research before you go. Just like the U.S. Like if we were to compare, certain cities in the U.S. versus certain cities, there's going to be ones that are more dangerous. There's going to be ones that are safer. So it's just the same anywhere.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I agree with that 100%.
Okay, so what and where is next for you? So you say you have you want to go to Tokyo
Mhm.
and some other cities. How long are you going to take before going to those Nairobi or wherever?
So, I actually do have some exciting things already in the works. Hi, Al. Already in the works, but I have to premiere it, on my channel. You just have to stay tuned. But for the beginning of next year, like I really do want to be in Asia. I feel like my heart is calling me to Asia. Whether it's Japan, back to Korea, Vietnam, wherever. Like I really do want to spend a good amount of time there. And so just as long as my savings account will allow me to go again, and just hopefully like along the way, I will just find different opportunities that will sustain me. And the goal is to do YouTube full time. So that's my goal. Like hopefully it'll be able to like kind of pay for itself. And um, yeah, we'll see.
Okay, Izzy talks about driving through Mexico and flying are two different things, and you cannot drive all night through certain towns in Mexico. Now, here, I agree with you here, Izzy. I am not driving into Mexico. I haven't driven at all, actually. I've taken Ubers, but I haven't driven like from one city to another, and I certainly probably wouldn't do it at night. So on this point,
Mhm.
no objections. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, no objections. I would not think about driving through Mexico either. But once you do get into these cities like Mexico City, Merida, Playa del Carmen, I think from what I felt much safer.
Okay. So if there's anyone else that has any questions or comments for Tulu, feel free to put them in the comments. Her channel again is Tulu.travel, so you can follow her there and figure out what is next for her. We have a comment here. Let's see this one. Your content was so helpful when I took my family to Mexico City. We have 2 preschool age kids and they had a blast. Did this person move there or was this a vacation? Do you know them?
No, I'm not. I'm not too sure, but I'm so glad that the that my videos were helpful. I don't. Sometimes I'm like, I didn't really. I feel like I didn't really give as much insight as I could have to anybody that's interested in moving there because I was just trying to like show my experience. But it's really nice to hear when people say it was helpful. So I'm so glad.
Yeah. Okay. If this person LH moved, I might have to talk to you about what you did with your kids, your preschool age kids, and how that experience was. Okay, it was a trip uh, for 2 weeks.
Ah,
You
cool.
lived abroad in China. Okay. So then we'll talk to you about your your experience abroad in China. We'll
Yeah,
have you on the channel.
it's amazing.
Okay, so thank you for taking the time to talk with us and sharing your experiences in Mexico. And thank you too to Izzy, if you're still on here, for sharing your perspectives as well. It's definitely important to share both sides. And a lot of people are thinking about and talking about moving to Mexico, and it's important to share. Yeah, it has great points and it has great features, and there's reduced stress and there's a better emphasis on gathering. But it's true, we also need to not be all sunshine and rainbows, and
Right.
also express the other side. So thank you for your points as well, and we will see you all next time.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Tiffany. I really had a good time. Thank
Great.
you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.